The new Wegovy pill is now available through Weight Watchers. Powerful GLP-1 results in a simple pill at the lowest price available. And with Weight Watchers, you can get doctor support and personalized nutrition programs. See if you qualify at weightwatchers.com. Ad not reviewed or approved by Novo Nordisk.
Dude, my knee is absolutely cooked. I feel like I'm 70.
You tapping out already?
Yeah, man, my knee's telling me to retire.
Bro, you're never going to feel young again if you're still rocking those crusty knee sleeves from 2005.
What?
Incrediwear, dude. The Incrediwear knee sleeve.
What the hell is that?
This is what the pros use. 4 of the last 5 NBA MVPs wore Incrediwear. It's not squeeze your knee until it's numb compression. It actually increases blood flow and speeds recovery. Less pain, better healing. And the best part? Wear it all day and walk like you're not 80.
Wait, so it's not just cutting off my circulation and hoping for the best?
Nope, it actually works. So you coming back in? Or are you going to sit there and feel old?
All right, let's go.
Stop letting your knees bench you. Go to freesocks.com, grab the Incrediwear knee sleeve, and get a free pair of Incrediwear socks. FREESOX.com and get a free pair of socks with your knee sleeve purchase. Get back in the game.
Darkcast Network. Indie pods with a dark side.
Fiona Pender was 7 months pregnant and ready for her baby. On August 22nd, 1996, she went shopping for baby clothes with her mother and brother. It was a period of joy and nesting for the 25-year-old hairdresser and part-time model. According to her partner, John Thompson, Fiona was asleep the next morning when he left for work. He kissed her goodbye, left their flat on Church Street in Tullamore, County Offaly, Ireland, and never saw her again. When friends and family couldn't reach Fiona that day or the next, they panicked. There was no reason for Fiona to be out of touch with them. By the time she was reported missing, her loved ones feared the worst. Now, nearly 30 years later, there has still been no trace of Fiona or her child. But that doesn't mean that Gardai or her family have given up. When a person goes missing, there's a special kind of pain in the not knowing. I want to tell the stories of those who never came home. Today, I want to tell you the story of Fiona Pender. I'm Kona Gallagher.
And I'm Ethan Flick.
And this is And Then They Were Gone. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
Thank you for joining us once again. I'm Kona.
And I'm Ethan.
And we're the husband and wife team behind this podcast. Each week, I tell you the story of an unsolved missing persons case. Ethan doesn't know anything about the case going into the episode and is here to provide his reactions and questions in real time, hopefully asking some of the same ones you have at home. This week, we're heading out of the country once again, this time to Ireland. This is our second time covering a case here, and last time I very confidently mispronounced the Irish word for police. I went through the entire episode saying Gardai, when it should be, at least according to the internet, Gardai. So as with our episode on Debbie Sasson, I did look up pronunciation of the different towns and counties that we talk about this week, but I saw conflicting answers too. So I just want our Irish listeners to know that I'm trying my best.
I would also like our Irish listeners to know that this is taking place in Tullamore, which is where my favorite whiskey is produced.
Right. Now, a few things struck me about Fiona's case when I was deciding what story I was going to cover. One is the fact that Ireland is a relatively small country, and as such, it doesn't have an incredibly large number of unsolved missing persons cases. In fact, there are so few that Gardai looked into the possibility of this case being connected to the other Irish one we've covered, the disappearance of Deirdre Jacob. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in this episode.
Okay.
The other thing that struck me about this case is that even though the 30th anniversary of Fiona's disappearance is this year, it's still being very actively investigated, with a big announcement being made just a few months ago. So I figured another push of publicity or just awareness might help. Like, who knows? It could shake a few witnesses loose or convince someone to talk who maybe hasn't before. Before we get into it, though, we've had a bunch of people join us over on Patreon, so we'd like to take a moment to give some of them a shout out. Thank you to 86B, Whitney V, B. Salzer, Lacey, Caitlin Q, Kate E.H., Carrie D., and Sam. We really appreciate your support.
Thank you all so much.
As a reminder, if you'd like to get our episodes ad-free and sometimes early, you can join us over on Patreon at any level, starting at just $2 a month, and you'll also get a free copy of the ebook that I wrote. So now, let's get into the story of Fiona Pender. Fiona Pender was born on July 13th, 1971, to Josephine and Sean Pender. She was the only girl and grew up with two brothers, Mark and John. The family lived in Tullamore, County Offaly in Ireland. Fiona had a variety of jobs as a young adult. She was trained as a hairdresser and had also gotten some modeling jobs. She even lived in London for a time where she worked at a hotel in Croydon. An article in the Offaly Express says that her partner, John Thomas, also worked in that hotel. Now, given that he's also from the Tullamore area, I think his family has a farm kind of on the outskirts, like the next county over maybe. It sounds like they went to London together to work at this job. Like, it doesn't sound like they met there.
Got it. Okay.
But either way, the pair returned to Ireland and settled back near where they grew up, renting a little flat on Church Street. In 1995, tragedy struck the Pender family when Fiona's brother Mark died in a motorbike accident. When Fiona announced her pregnancy in early 1996, it was a shot of joy that the grieving family needed. A new life and a new generation to help them deal with their heartache. I haven't read a lot about Fiona and John's relationship, so I couldn't really say what kind of a guy he was back then, or if the relationship was good or bad. Nobody's really gone into depth explaining their dynamic before her disappearance. What I will say is that in interviews given by Fiona's family, none of them mentioned volatility or suspected abuse or anything of that nature. The one potential sticking point that has been mentioned was religious. Fiona was Catholic, and the Thompsons were Church of Ireland's family.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so there have been reports that John's father and sisters didn't approve of Fiona because of this, but the family has strongly denied that. John said that the difference in religions wasn't a real issue, and Archie, Thomas's father, told the Offaly Express that he liked Fiona and that he was even giving the couple a piece of land on which they could build a house.
I mean, if that's true, then clearly there was no issue.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the Thomas family owned a farm, so I got the impression that they were just giving them a piece of land from like that land that
Sure.
they already owned.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to prove really one way or another if that was an actual plan
if that
or
was
if
actually going to happen.
he's just saying that after the fact, you know?
Yeah.
He told the paper, quote, "All I wanted was that John would find a girl he was happy with, and I couldn't care less whether she was a Protestant or a Roman Catholic or no religion. I couldn't care whether she was black or white," end quote. So it's hard to say. Obviously, there's a long history of very serious religious conflicts in Ireland, so I can see how that would potentially be a major issue in a relationship. But we don't really have concrete proof that that was the case here.
Right. And the conflict would be more so with their parents' generation than potentially with theirs.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
and I think that's probably true. And the article kind of did allude to that, saying that it was like more like his family that didn't approve. But yeah, again, you know, I mean, how much did that really play into Fiona and John's relationship? You know,
Right.
like it's just, again, it's just hard to say.
Yeah.
The last time Fiona was seen by people outside of her home was on Thursday, August 22nd, 1996. As I mentioned in the intro, she was in her nesting phase and went shopping for baby clothes with her mother and brother. They dropped Fiona off at her flat that evening and said goodbye, never dreaming that it would be their last and that they'd never get a chance to meet her baby. According to John, the next morning, Friday, August 23rd, he left at 6 a.m. to go work on his family's farm. Fiona was still sleeping, and he says that he kissed her goodbye and left. Fiona was close with her family and friends and sounds like someone who is always in contact. Her mother, Josephine, said that she spoke to her daughter daily. On the 23rd, one of Fiona's friends stopped by her flat to say hi, but no one answered the door. The curtains were drawn, and the friend just assumed Fiona was sleeping. John apparently spent the night at his family's farm outside of Tullamore on the 23rd, and later told reporters that he didn't realize Fiona had gone missing.
Is that a convenient excuse, or was he really there?
Well, I think he probably was really there, but what I would be wondering is if that was normal. Like, was it normal for him to leave early in the morning to go work on the farm, stay overnight, and then presumably work the next day as well?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, is that something he often did? Or would he just go help out during the day and come home typically? And then this night he happened to not go home.
Right.
You know, and also apparently didn't try to reach out to Fiona. Or if he did try to reach out with her, wasn't concerned when he couldn't get a hold of her.
Yeah.
You know, like either
Right.
way, it seems a little weird.
Did you say what time the friend came by on the 23rd?
No, the articles I read weren't specific. It sounds like it was like early afternoon, maybe.
Okay. I'm just trying to get the timeline
Yeah.
down. So if we are to believe John,
Mm-hmm.
6 a.m. was the last time he saw her.
Yeah.
And then a friend sometime
Like
early
in the afternoon, yeah.
stops by. There's no answer. So if his timeline is true, that's, 6 a.m. to noon-ish,
Yeah.
some time around there. I mean, it's a large gap,
It is.
but it would be odd that something would happen. I mean, those are daylight hours,
Yeah.
and you said it's a flat, so I'm assuming it's in
Yeah. A building with
town.
other. Yeah, exactly. No,
Right.
it was in town in Tullamore. And, it's not like it was a huge city. They're not in
Right.
Dublin or whatever, but
there's
still there are
other
people.
around. There's other residents. It's
Oh,
not like they
absolutely.
lived on that little plot of land on the outskirts of Tullamore.
Yeah, on a farm in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't like that
So
at
if something
all.
happened there, presumably people would have heard it
Right.
because, again, it's daylight hours. Or if she left and wandered somewhere, people would have seen her.
Yeah, I mean, again, she was 7 months pregnant at the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
And it sounds like she was well known around town. She had grown up there. So, yeah, I mean, I think if she was like wandering around that day, somebody would have seen her.
Was she a hairdresser still?
Yeah.
Like, what was she doing for work at the time?
Yeah, at the time, I believe she was still a hairdresser.
And we don't know if, like, she didn't show up for a shift.
Yeah, I
or
don't think
anything
it
like
was
that.
the weekend. I don't know that she was supposed to be working.
Okay.
I don't know, but that's never been mentioned in anything that I've read. So it doesn't sound like she had been expected to work. It sounded like she had the day off or wasn't really expected to be anywhere. So that's why nobody really was super concerned on the 23rd.
Right.
Because it doesn't sound like she missed anything specific on the 23rd.
Yeah, that's more of what I was getting at.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like I said, the one friend came over, thought it was a little weird that she didn't answer because I think, she was expecting her to be home.
Mm-hmm.
But again, she was 7 months pregnant. Like, you get tired, So I think that it was completely reasonable for that friend to assume that maybe she was taking a nap or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, her mom says she talked to her every day, but had just seen her the evening before.
Right.
So, yeah, maybe she tried to call her once or whatever, just figured they missed each other. There's just no reason to freak out that day.
Right.
So anyway, back on the 23rd, John leaves and spends the night at his family farm. According to him, doesn't realize Fiona's missing. So it's the next day, the 24th, when Josephine still is not able to get a hold of Fiona. And I don't know if she gets a hold of John during this period at all, but nobody can reach Fiona on the 24th. And by this time, it's been, 2 days since anyone besides John allegedly has seen her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they get worried. And so that's when Josephine calls the police to report her daughter missing. Despite her pregnancy, Fiona's case was treated as a standard missing persons case for the first several days of the investigation. She was an adult, after all, and there was no sign of foul play, so Gardai were operating from the perspective that her disappearance could have been voluntary. Because of that, no large-scale searches were immediately undertaken, and a national appeal for information didn't go out until 5 days after Fiona was reported missing.
A lot of lost memories in those 5 days. That's a long time.
It is. It's too long. And what shows, how detrimental that possibly could have been is that even though it was 5 days later, they did get tips that really could have been followed up on 4 days previously. You know what I mean? So when that appeal went out, Gardai received some very interesting information. And this kind of goes back to what you were saying about them living in a flat and, people being around, because people were around. A local man came forward and said that he had seen two men carrying something that looked like a rolled up carpet from the apartment building where Fiona lived. He said he then saw them put the object in the back of a four-wheel drive vehicle. The mention of a four-wheel drive vehicle is especially important because another man came forward and said that on the night of August 22nd, which was the day that Fiona was last seen by her family, he was almost forced off a road south of Tullamore and in the direction of Slieve Bloom by a speeding four-wheel drive vehicle.
What do they mean by a four-wheel drive vehicle? Like a truck?
Or like an SUV, something like that. And you got to remember, this is Ireland in the 90s. Like, there were not a lot of larger vehicles like that. It's not like freaking America where everybody has a gigantic ass SUV or truck. Like, the cars there are generally pretty small. And so, an SUV, like something like that, would kind of stick out.
And so this witness said it was the night before.
The 22nd, yeah. It would take over a decade, but this wouldn't be the last time Slieve Bloom would be brought up in this case. Around this time, ground searches did take place. So now we're about like a week into it, 5 days, however long, and divers searched the Tullamore River and the Grand Canal. Tracking dogs searched on the ground and Air Corps helicopters were deployed. Every maternity unit in Ireland and the UK were notified just in case Fiona ended up in one, but she never appeared. This episode of And Then They Were Gone is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible financial geniuses, monetary magicians, these are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. Did you eat? That's usually the first thing Ethan says to me when he gets home because, honestly, some days I just can't even deal with it, so I don't. Luckily, Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs, so you can eat well without the planning or the cooking. Their meals include lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats. And you can choose meals that fit your individual goals, whether that's healthier eating, calorie management, or more protein. They also have 100 rotating weekly meals to keep things fresh and delicious through the winter. Factor meals are always fresh, never frozen, and ready in about 2 minutes. Ethan's been loving them too. He works a crazy schedule, so it's so much easier to just take these Factor meals instead of worrying about meal prepping on the weekend, which is the last thing anyone wants to do. So if you want to try it, you can head to factormeals.com/ATTWG50OFF and use code ATTWG50OFF to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only, varies by plan. One free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active. Armoire makes getting dressed easy. With a clothing rental membership from Armoire, you can build the perfect wardrobe with brands that are high quality, unique, and recommended just for you. All you have to do is take a 5-minute style quiz and select items from your personalized closet. Then they show up to your door in as little as 2 days. And let me tell you, I'm on the other side of the country and they still got here super quick. Then when you're ready for new clothes, you just swap them out. I'm an elder millennial, and so jeans are kind of like the thing that I can't figure out right now. And so in my new bag that I just got, I ordered 2 different pairs of jeans because I'm still trying to figure out what actually works for me. And I love it because I can rent high quality designer clothes without having to make that financial investment. Plus, there's no laundry required and no time wasted shopping. So right now, my listeners can give Armoire a try and get up to 60% off of their first month. That's up to $150 off. Just visit armoire.style/ATTWG. That's armoire.style, ARMOIRE.style/ATTWG to get up to 60% off your first month and never worry about what to wear again. Try Armoire today. Now, of course, the Gardai had to look at John as a suspect, and it seems as though they looked at him pretty hard. In fact, in April 1997, 5 people were arrested for questioning. The names weren't publicized at the time, but John later said that he, his father, and his sisters had been arrested.
And here it's important to mention to our American audience that over there, they get arrested for questioning.
Right.
Whereas here, you can be questioned as a suspect without getting arrested.
Right. It's generally more of a voluntary thing for you to come in for questioning.
Right.
Typically here, if there's an arrest, that means like, oh my gosh, we've got evidence. We're ready to take this to court.
Right.
Whereas, and we've run into this with, a lot of different stories, which is, that we've covered in Australia, in the UK, in Ireland, where people are just placed under arrest only for questioning.
Right.
Like there's no evidence necessarily.
No, and it's a lot. It's a different criminal justice system. It's a different level of guilt, different level of suspicion, different procedures. So it's jarring when you hear
somebody was arrested. Yeah,
for especially those of us in America, because like you said, that's pretty much like, oh, that guy's fucked.
Yeah.
But
not necessarily in this case. And yeah, I mean, especially because we covered a couple of cases too, where there were like multiple arrests over years. It's like this guy was arrested, then these people were arrested, then this other guy was arrested. But, again, nothing ever really came of it. So the Thompsons were arrested and questioned, but they were ultimately released without charges. And after that, the case seemed to go cold. John, however, remained a suspect, but then 2 years later, in 1999, officials seemed to question whether they had been on the right track at all, and another theory came up. So back in 2021, and I talked about this a little bit in the intro, we covered the case of another young missing Irish woman, Deirdre Jacob. She was part of what media dubbed the vanishing triangle. I went back and pulled up the notes from that episode, and we briefly mentioned Fiona Pender in it. Here's an excerpt from that episode. Ireland's vanishing triangle refers to a group of Irish women who all disappeared in the mid to late 90s. Most of the women, there are 8 in all, were in their late teens to early 20s, and they all went missing suddenly from the eastern side of the country. These women, Annie McCarrick, Fiona Pender, Ciara Breen, Jojo Dullard, Fiona Sinnott, Eva Brennan, Imelda Keenan, and Deirdre Jacob have never been seen again. So in 1999, Gardai included Fiona Pender's case in Operation Trace, which was a major inquiry focused on multiple missing women cases in Leinster during the 1990s. Operation Trace was designed in part to evaluate whether there was a common thread between cases, and in public discourse, it became associated with the fear of a serial offender. Though, as we talked about in Deirdre's episode, investigators believe that there may be more than one offender in these cases, but that at least some of them are connected.
Was Fiona the only one that was pregnant, though?
I believe so, yes.
I mean, that's a big change in MO if she is actually involved in or linked to those cases.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, and I don't think there really was much of an indication that she was involved other than the fact that she was young and went missing from kind of the same area.
Yeah. It's definitely not going to hurt to include her.
No, absolutely not. But being included in a task force doesn't mean that Gardai believed that she had been abducted by a stranger. It just means that they were trying not to get tunnel vision. You know, like you said, it wouldn't hurt to include her. It wouldn't hurt to just look at every angle. Some weird things had been happening to women around Fiona's age, and they had to look at the possibility of a connection. And the fact of the matter is, in this case, the reporting over the years has repeatedly suggested investigators believed her disappearance likely involved someone she knew, as opposed to a random stranger abduction scenario. Fiona and her unborn child remained missing, and the Pender family continued to grieve. For her father, Sean, the weight of it all became too much. In 2000, about 4 years after his daughter vanished, Sean died by suicide. In 2016, Josephine was asked by the Irish Independent what she would say to the person who took Fiona. She made her feelings clear, saying, quote, "If I was to say anything to him, I would say, you have destroyed my life and you have destroyed my family. He is directly responsible for Fiona's death, but he is also indirectly responsible for the death of my husband, Sean, who took his own life in 2000. End quote.
She said Fiona's death.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, after the very early days in the investigation, the Pender family didn't believe she was coming back alive. Like I said, she was just so close with them. She was just so involved in their lives. They were so involved in her life. She was so excited about having this baby. Like, there was just no world in which she would leave voluntarily. And they had to figure if she didn't leave voluntarily, she probably wasn't going to be able to come back. Despite her public pleas, there wasn't much movement in Fiona's case. Then, in May 2008, nearly 12 years after Fiona disappeared, a shocking discovery was made in the Slieve Blue Mountains: a crude wooden cross. The Irish Times reported that it measured about 0.75 meters, which is about 2.5 feet, and bore the words, "Fiona Pender, buried here August 22nd, 1996.
Mind blown. What?
Isn't that wild?
What the hell?
Yeah, I mean, completely insane. There are a few more interesting pieces to it, though. It was found by a random person who was just walking in the Mackinac Woods, and the cross didn't appear to have been there for 12 years. Like, it looked brand new.
So, guilty conscience of one of the people that buried her, or a hoax?
I don't know. So Gardai said that the wood was fresh, and they estimate that it could have been there for just a matter of weeks before this person stumbled across it. More importantly, the date on the cross was August 22nd.
Right. Not the 23rd.
Not the 23rd, when John says he last saw her alive.
So did they dig?
Oh, they dig. But yeah, so like, okay, this is obviously insane for so many reasons. One, the fact that it was put there 12 years later does kind of point toward hoax.
Yeah.
The date of August 22nd points toward,
Somebody that was really familiar with the case.
Really familiar with the case. I mean, not just some random person, somebody who was intimately familiar. So yes, they did start digging. They did a search in that entire area, but the initial search came up empty. So a lot of people obviously did believe
it was a hoax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, investigators were undeterred. They conducted a second, more extensive search in the area of the cross. Unfortunately, nothing was found. But Gardai weren't ready to completely write this off as a hoax. RT reported that the cross was sent for forensic examination in an effort to determine its origin. The Irish Examiner reported on the renewed search and included a heartbreaking public plea from Fiona's mother, Josephine Pender, urging Fiona's killer to give himself up, telling reporters, quote, "All I want is Fiona back. I don't want anything else. I don't want anyone punished. I just want Fiona back to give her a Christian burial," end quote. She said that she wasn't expecting police to find her daughter's body on that mountain, but also didn't believe that the cross was a hoax. She says she believes that someone with knowledge of what happened to Fiona put it there, but that her daughter's body is buried somewhere on a local farm on the outskirts of Tullamore.
Okay. I mean, you might as well just say it.
Yeah, it is,
Right.
it is so interesting in reading all these articles, like how careful everybody is about like not directly saying anything about anyone, but making it very clear what they're talking about or who they're talking about or where they're talking about.
So I have a couple of questions, though. Is this location where the cross was found, is that between where their flat was and where John's family's farm was?
Well, I'll tell you what, where it is where that one person said they were almost run off the road.
Yes, right.
The night of the 22nd.
Right. But I guess that's my question though, is where is it in relation to John's family's farm?
See, I'm not exactly sure because I couldn't really get a good location of like where the farm was.
Just that it was somewhere on the outskirts of Tullamore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't really say.
Okay. And then next question, do we know, has John's family's farm ever been searched, the land?
No, because they don't have any evidence to search the farm, and the family's definitely not going to get permission.
Yeah. Well, especially not at this point.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yikes. I don't know. I mean, to me, the evidence is pointing at John and some members of his family being involved.
Right. I mean, that one witness outside of their flat said it was 2 men.
Right.
And John's father, Archie, was arrested for questioning.
Right.
Now, he has 3 sisters, no brothers.
Mm-hmm.
His mom's never been mentioned, so I don't know, where she was. But again, 2 men wouldn't really matter anyway if that's the case. Now, it also doesn't necessarily mean that it was a family member either. It could have been a friend. It could have been whatever.
Right.
It also could have been not John at all, But yeah, a lot of like common sense evidence is kind of pointing in that direction. And that's why John has been the prime suspect in this disappearance for 30 years.
Right. And then another question, obviously, this is more of just a question throwing it out there. You probably haven't been able to find any research on it, but like you said, it's not very common or it wasn't very common for there to be large SUVs or trucks or whatever. So uncommon, in fact, that they were just calling it a large 4-wheel drive vehicle.
Right.
Which could mean anything, but did they ever find any trace of that? Did the Gardai go looking for that? I mean, I'm sure they did at some point.
Yeah.
Does John's family own a 4-wheel drive vehicle for farm work?
Well, exactly. And I have never read anything that specifically said they did or didn't.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I was reading this and I read 4-wheel drive vehicle, knowing that we're in Ireland, like my first thought was farmers.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty
truck.
Much who would be using that, like they're the ones who would have that type of vehicle. But again, I've just never seen anything that is specifically said one way or another.
Yeah. Again, all conjecture.
Yeah,
but
of course.
The very circumstantial evidence points in John's direction.
Yeah, and there's definitely more.
Okay.
In February 2014, Gardai at Tullamore renewed their appeal to the public in tracing Fiona's whereabouts. Not long after, they received what seemed to be bombshell information, and it came all the way from Canada. Did you know there's an online cannabis company that ships federally legal THC right to your door? I'm talking about Mood.com. They have an incredible line of cannabis gummies, and you can get 20% off your first order at Mood.com with promo code ATTWG. These are functional gummies that are optimized to kick in as little as 15 minutes and take you to the mood you're looking for. I am not surprised to learn that their Sleepy Time Advanced Gummies are their current bestseller because let me tell you, those things work. And I've tried everything, and these get me to sleep, keep me asleep without feeling groggy the next morning. They also have CBD gummies for gentle relaxation and pain relief, or even Mind Magic gummies for deep work and enhanced creativity. And everything just ships discreetly right to your door. Best of all, not only is every Mood product backed by a 100-day satisfaction guarantee, but as I mentioned, listeners get 20% off their first order with code ATTWG. So head to mood.com, find the functional gummy that matches exactly what you're looking for, and let them help you discover your perfect mood. And don't forget to use promo code ATTWG when you check out to save 20% on your first order. Try it today at mood.com.
Dude, my knee is absolutely cooked. I feel like I'm 70.
You tapping out already?
Yeah, man, my knee's telling me to retire.
Bro, you're never going to feel young again if you're still rocking those crusty knee sleeves from 2005.
What?
Incrediwear, dude. The Incrediwear knee sleeve.
What the hell is that?
This is what the pros use. 4 of the last 5 NBA MVPs wore Incrediwear. It's not squeeze your knee until it's numb compression. It actually increases blood flow and speeds recovery. Less pain, better healing. And the best part? Wear it all day and walk like you're not 80.
Wait, so it's not just cutting off my circulation and hoping for the best?
Nope, it actually works. So you coming back in? Or are you going to sit there and feel old?
All right, let's go.
Stop letting your knees bench you. Go to freesocks.com, grab the Incrediwear knee sleeve, and get a free pair of Incrediwear socks. FREESOX.com and get a free pair of socks with your knee sleeve purchase. Get back in the game.
In 2014, a woman in Saskatchewan went to police with a pre-written statement saying that she was afraid for her safety and that of her children. She accused her husband of sexual assault and testified in court that he told her, quote, "You know I've done it before. They'll never find you. Is that what you want?" End quote. What's more is she said her husband brought her to a burial site 10 years earlier while they were dating.
In Canada?
No, not in Canada. In Ireland, because the woman the man was referring to was, of course, Fiona Pender, and the person who allegedly made these statements was John Thompson.
No. Really? He moved to Canada and started a family?
Yep. He moved to Saskatchewan, Canada with his wife in the 2000s.
Okay.
In 2014, they were going through a divorce, and that's when these allegations came out. John Thompson obviously had long been the top suspect in Fiona's case, so Gardai were excited. Could they actually have a chance of finding Fiona after all of these years? We talk all the time about how cold cases like this are often solved by change in technology or change in circumstance, and an abused wife who had enough certainly qualifies as a change in circumstance. Now, obviously, I'm reading about all of this in 2026, so it's kind of hard, though, to see how much of this was made public as it was happening in 2014,
right,
and how much just kind of came out later.
Yeah.
But in December 2014, the Irish Times reported on another search operation for Fiona. So they just reported on a search operation, but there was no tying it to any of the stuff happening in Canada. So that's why I think that stuff wasn't public at the time. Gardai were once again searching for Fiona's remains in the Slieve Bloom Mountains area. A strip of woodland was cleared and the search commenced. The report noted that Garda intelligence indicated her killer brought her body to that location after abducting her in Tullamore. And again, I think this intelligence is just coming from Thompson's wife.
Right.
Though they didn't say it at that point. Now, this search lasted 2 weeks, but the cadaver dogs and other equipment failed to find any anomalies or other evidence that would indicate that Fiona was buried there. In a December 27, 2014 Irish Independent article, Gardai said that they believe the suspect had lied to a witness about the burial location. So they weren't saying kind of where all this was coming from. They just said they had basically gotten a tip.
Yeah, but I mean, we can piece it together now.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And so police, again, weren't thinking at that point that the wife was lying or was wrong or whatever. They think that John had just misled her as to the location or, whatever it was.
To scare her?
Yeah. But didn't actually want to give her real information in case of a situation like this.
Yeah.
John Thompson was charged with multiple offenses, including sexual assault, and this is, of course, all in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But when he went to trial, Thompson was acquitted. The judge even said that his wife had likely fabricated both the sexual assault and the threat allegations in order to influence the custody battle over their 2 children.
Interesting.
Which, that's so hard for me. I mean, not knowing the actual facts of the case and the evidence that was actually presented, it's really hard for me to believe that this woman's going to get up in a court of law and just make all of this stuff up. But yeah, I don't know. Thompson later sued the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, saying that they ignored inconsistencies in his wife's statements and used coercive techniques to influence her testimony in court. He was suing for around €125,000, and I'm not sure if that suit was successful, but he did say something that struck me as a little bit odd. Now, this is from a 2025 article in Crime World, and I believe that they got this information from court documents. But Thompson claimed the sexual assault prosecution was malicious and arose out of a, quote, desire for recognition, end quote, in helping Gardai solve Fiona's disappearance. But how could his wife do something like this out of a desire for recognition in helping solve Fiona's case if he didn't have anything to do with it?
Right.
If he didn't have anything to do with it, he would have known that his wife didn't have any information that could have potentially helped them solve the case. So, what?
Yeah, I don't understand that statement at all.
Yeah, and if he's saying that she just made everything up, she would have known that she didn't have a chance of helping solve Fiona's case.
Right.
So again, how was she hoping to get recognition for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's almost an admission of guilt.
It's...
Almost.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to say.
That's weird, yeah.
Unfortunately, after that unsuccessful search, Fiona's case went dormant once again. In August 2016, Fiona's mother, Josephine, reached out to the media once again to publicly beg, quote, the chief suspect, end quote, because that's how he's always referred to in the media, to reveal where her daughter is buried. By this time, Josephine was incredibly ill. Despite being relatively young, she had just been transferred to a nursing home after spending 3 months in the hospital. She was scheduled to undergo a heart procedure shortly after this Irish Independent article was published. She told the Independent that she was afraid she would die without knowing the truth and implored anyone to come forward, saying, quote, there are a few people in the community who would know what happened to Fiona. I am also pleading with them to tell me where she is. My heart is completely broken. The person who killed Fiona and her baby, it's their fault it's gone on so long. They could ease a lot of minds, end quote. Unfortunately, Josephine didn't get her wish, and she passed away just a week later. Shortly after her death, Fiona's only remaining immediate family member, her brother John, spoke to the Irish Independent. He vowed to continue his mother's work and do everything in his power to bring his sister's killer to justice. Quote, this is not over until Fiona is found. It's that simple. The time it takes makes no difference. Now that my mother has passed away, it's only reinforced the will to find Fiona and, just as important, bring a murderer who thinks he has gotten away with it scot-free to justice. It is my time to do what I can do for this cause, as I do not stand alone. End quote. John also made it clear where he stood in terms of his belief of who killed his sister, saying, quote, as a family, we have always supported the Gardai investigation and their conclusion to who the chief suspect was. End quote. On May 26, 2025, close to the 29-year anniversary, there was another milestone in Fiona's case when Gardai announced they were officially reclassifying it as a murder investigation. This announcement led to a new search operation on open ground in County Offaly, including excavation and forensic and technical examinations. Then, on May 28, 2025, Gardai issued an update saying they had commenced another open ground search, this time at a location in County Laois, again involving excavation and forensic examinations. So 2 operations in quick succession across neighboring counties, Offaly, and Leash, both tied to the same murder investigation. Now again, Offaly is where Tullamore is located, which is where Fiona was last seen. County Leash, I believe, is where the farm is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But unfortunately, as of this recording in early 2026, it doesn't appear as though the searches led to anything. And again, they were in County Leash, but like I said, I mean, as far as I know, the Thompson family still owns that property. I can't imagine they've been giving permission. You know, there is a chance, though, that over the years, like many farmers, I don't know how much land they started off with, but a lot of times, you know, over the years, farmers will start to parcel out some of their land and sell it.
Yeah.
So there's a tiny possibility that maybe some of it's been sold and was available to search. But again, if you're hiding a body on a land, I don't think that would really be the part you would parcel off.
Probably not.
So what happened to Fiona Pender? This wasn't a voluntary disappearance. So like, I'm not even going to talk about that. Like, we don't need to waste our time.
No, absolutely not. If she left on her own, they would have several months later found her in a hospital giving birth.
Yeah. Like it didn't happen. It also wasn't a suicide, you know? I mean, we had a couple of cases recently where that was very much a possibility. I don't think that's a possibility here. Someone took her. Someone took Fiona. The only real questions are who and what did they do with her? I mean, it could have been some sort of stranger abduction. Fiona was beautiful and she could have caught the attention of the wrong person and had like a stalker that no one knew about.
It's a possibility. Unlikely, I think.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like you can't rule it out because, again, she hasn't been found. But there's no actual evidence of that, nor was there any sign of a struggle at her flat, which, again, if it's a stranger abduction, you would definitely expect to see some sort of a struggle. And the flat is, by all accounts, her family and John, the last place where Fiona was seen. More than likely, Fiona was taken and killed by someone she knew and trusted. If we are to believe the witnesses, she was likely killed inside of the flat in a way that didn't leave blood or signs of a struggle. She was then transported out of the flat in something that appeared to be a rolled up carpet. You know, again, I'm not thinking it was an actual carpet. And if it was an actual carpet, it wasn't going to be a carpet from the flat because I think Fiona's parents would have immediately said, oh, hey, their living room carpet's missing or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So I think whatever it was something that either wasn't normally in their house or something that the accomplice, because remember there were two men, brought with them. Her body was then hidden someplace where the police have not yet been able to search.
What, my theory?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been alluding to it the entire episode.
Right.
But, I think she and John got into some sort of argument and he strangled her in the flat, called his dad. His dad showed up with this 4-wheel drive vehicle and something to carry her out in. They carried her out, took her to the family farm, and buried her somewhere on the family farm. And obviously, I don't know the geography, but if Sleeve Bloom Mountains was on the way to the farm, that matches the other witness description of that 4-wheel drive vehicle or the large 4x4, whatever, forcing him off the road and then ending up at their family farm, and she's still on the family farm.
Yeah, because why would you bury somebody in a public location that can be searched when you have access to private property that needs permission to be searched?
Exactly.
What do you think about the cross?
I don't know.
Like, who do you think put it there?
I don't know. It's hard to say. So when was that found?
2008.
So 12 years since she went missing. We don't know what information was actually put out to the public in those 12 years. So,
I mean, we do, because I did read contemporaneous articles, and so the dates were out there, right? Like, you know, it was known that she was last seen on the 22nd, but John said he last saw her on the 23rd. I mean, I can almost see, and I'm not, again, like, you know, listen, blanket disclaimer, we obviously don't know anything, and these are all theories. We're not saying anybody's guilty. We're not saying anybody did anything. These are just possibilities. I could almost see the cross not really being a hoax, but like kind of like almost something done by somebody close to Fiona who didn't have anything to do with her disappearance.
Right.
Maybe as a way to get more searches, get another search, like get more interest because the case had gone dormant.
Right.
You know, and
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was saying is like, those dates were out there at that point.
Yeah.
To include when the last time was a family member saw her.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I'm sure, obviously 12 years, the family has their own very specific theories, I'm sure,
right.
of what happened, right?
So it could have been somebody that was closely following the case via newspapers, or it could have been a friend of the family or a friend of Fiona. But I don't think it was the killer.
Yeah, I don't think it was the
guilty
killer.
conscience on John's part or John's dad.
Right. Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, I do. Whether it was somebody who was following it from afar or somebody who's actually closely connected to the case, but like I said, not responsible for her murder, I can see that being the person who did this because it got a whole new wave of media attention. It got a whole new wave of police attention. And Shreve Bloom had been a place of interest since the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I can see why, even though they might not have thought that she was up there, like they would want to trigger a search. They just want to trigger action in this case. And if that is what happened, then good for them. Like I can't really be mad at it. I don't know. I mean, yes, you could say wasting police resources, et cetera, but it's like, I don't get too bent out of shape about that.
Well, especially because it's, I don't want to say nothing happens in Tullamore because I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine, there's a lot of murders going on in Tullamore. So I don't want to say they're not busy because
we don't know.
I don't know.
We have no idea.
It could be a high crime rate, but when you're talking about a crime of this level happening in a small town in Ireland,
right?
Maybe extending some resources and doing some extra searches isn't the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. And like I said, I think especially because this place had been brought up, right? It wasn't just some random location that had nothing to do with anything.
Right.
Like it seems like there were some reasons to do a search there. It's just we're at the point, it's like, it really has to be a change in circumstance. I don't know that somebody who's directly responsible is going to have a guilty conscience. They haven't in 30 years. So the question becomes, who else knows something? Does the ex-wife actually know something? Did she make it all up as John and the Saskatchewan judge say she did? Obviously, we don't know. I mean, I do think it's a little odd that, according to her, John showed her a burial site 10 years prior and she still married him and had kids. But
okay, but the abuse probably started long before that.
Yeah.
And we don't want to get into victim blaming.
No, of course
or
not.
anything
Of course
like that.
not. But if any part of her story, about that is true and he was using that as a threat against her, is she the only one that he used that as a threat against?
Right.
That just says to me that there could potentially be more people out there who were told something, who heard something.
Right.
Whatever the case may be.
And I'd be curious if anybody else in his family knows anything or was involved.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, all three of his sisters were arrested for questioning.
And the dad.
Yeah, and the dad. So I don't know. I don't know if police actually thought the sisters might know something or if they were just kind of rounding everybody up in the family or what the deal was.
I'm curious if his dad is still alive, I know you don't know, I'm not, but like, what's going to happen to the farm? Like, who does he go to?
I don't know. Because as far as I know, John is still in Canada.
Yeah. So if it, like, when his parents died, does he go to one of the sisters? And then does that change things?
Yeah.
Because then do the sisters go to the police and they're like, have at it? search the grounds before I inherit it, before I move back on, because I don't want a body on my land.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Only time will tell.
Yeah.
August 2026 will mark 30 years that Fiona has been missing. She was a young woman already dealing with grief over her brother's untimely death, who was excited to bring a new life into the world. She spent her last day buying baby clothes with the people who loved her the most. Today, there's a memorial to Fiona and her baby on the Grand Canal in Tullamore. It reads, quote, "A mother holds her child's hand for only a few moments in time, but she holds them in her heart forever," end quote. Fiona never got to hold her child's hand. That simple act of motherhood was stolen from her. Because of an act of pointless violence, Josephine never got to hold her only daughter's hand again. But just because the person responsible has gotten away with it for the past 30 years, it doesn't mean it's over. Gardai haven't given up, and neither has Fiona's family. They are still investigating, and they are still making sure that no one in County Offaly or beyond forgets about Fiona and her baby. Fiona's aunt, Bernie O'Reilly, told RTE that when she filled out the 2022 census, she made sure to write about Fiona in the time capsule section. That's a part of the census which allowed people to write personal messages for future generations. It will be opened and publicly released in 2122. Bernie said, quote, "I wrote about Fiona, so whoever opens it and reads it in 100 years will read about Fiona. Please God, by then they will have found her. We'll all be gone, but I felt I had to let people know." End quote. In closing, Bernie had a message that applies not only to her niece's case, but to every case we've covered on this show. It's never too late. Fiona Pender has been missing from Tullamore, County Offaly, Ireland since August 23, 1996. She's a white woman with blonde hair and blue-green eyes. At the time of her disappearance, she was approximately 5 foot 5 inches tall and was 7 months pregnant. She was last seen wearing bright-colored clothing and white leggings. If you have any information about the disappearance and murder of Fiona Pender, please contact Tullamore Gardai Station at 057-932-7600 or contact the Gardai Confidential line at 1-800-666-111. You can see all of the sources for this episode along with photos and videos at our website, andthentheyweregone.com.
And be sure to follow us on social, and Then They Were Gone Pod on Facebook and at ATTWG Pod on Instagram and TikTok. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe and consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It will help new listeners find us. And the more people that listen, the more chances we have of bringing someone home.
And we'll see you here next week for a brand new episode.
See you next week.
And Then They Were Gone is hosted by Kona Gallagher and Ethan Flick. All research, writing, and editing is done by me, Kona Gallagher. Theme music is The Stork by Ketsa. Additional music is provided by Kai Engel. And Then They Were Gone is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!
Do your knees make you feel older than you are? You're out here trying to have a hot girl summer at 35. You're on dating apps. You're saying yes to spontaneous trips. Maybe you're rediscovering your flexibility, and your knees are like, actually, we'd like to quit. The IncrediWear infrared knee sleeve uses fabric tech designed to increase blood flow and help reduce pain and speed recovery, so your knees can actually keep up with your life. It's like giving your body the support it already wants while it heals, just without all the extra pain and drama. Wear it to the gym, wear it on a date, wear it while you're doing things I cannot say on this podcast. It's comfortable, breathable, and works 24/7. Go to freesocks.com and grab the IncrediWear knee sleeve and a free pair of socks with purchase. That's freesox.com. Because if something's gonna give out, let it be him, not your knees.